that if someone has taken a 2-year break from fanfiction.net, they would have improved their writing skills. But in the case of Hamster, the author of A Special Truce, AVGN vs. Nostalgia Critic / and A Meeting Between Friends, they have not improved their writing skills whatsoever. They have not listened to the reviews that were given to them about their stories being against the rules and grammatically bad. No, they completely ignored those reviews. You want to know how I know this? Well, because Hamster has written another story. The story, you may ask? The Ballad of Glenn and Barrack. Barrack being Barack Obama. And to insult our president even more, he spelled his name wrong. The story is rated T. It's in English. It's romance drama. And it has 4 reviews. And unlike his other stories, this one has an author's note. Let's read it. Hey everyone, I'm sorry I haven't updated in a while, but I was busy at college and it was so hard. I promise to write more stories in the future. Wow, you can tell he has used his college education very well. Seeing these 2 sentences here, I promise to write more stories, period, in the future. Yeah, in the future is a fragment. It should be part of the other sentence. And even if it was its own sentence, the I in the N, in the word in, should be capitalized. Also, this is supposed to be an alternate universe. What is an alternate universe? I think you should actually just have one an in that sentence. And alternate universe or not, you're not supposed to write fanfics about real people. So don't give me any more crap that my stories are OOC. Flames will be laughed at. Really? You consider people critiquing your work as flames? People pointing out the truth about your stories, you consider those flames? No, I don't consider those flames. I consider those the truth. Okay. I shouldn't rant. I should just get on with the story, because the sooner I get done reading this story, the sooner I can move on. So, let's read this fanfic about Barack Obama and Glenn. Glenn Beck, to be exact. I'm not really sure who he is, but I'm assuming he's a real person as well. And something tells me that they're going to be a couple. Glenn Beck walked gloomy to his locker. Walked gloomy. That's wrong. It should say Glenn Beck walked gloomily to his locker. Or walked miserably to his locker. Having the word gloomy in there makes no sense whatsoever. He slowly took off his coat and book bag and stuffed it in his locker. Picking up his English and math books, he happened to catch his reflection in his locker mirror. Stop repeating the word locker. You already pointed out in the first sentence that he was walking to his locker, so stop saying locker. Just say, like, it. And maybe mention locker like every other sentence, but not in every single sentence, because it gets very repetitive. Glenn was a chubby boy with lots of skin blemishes. Even at 16, he had dark circles under his small eyes, which makes him look older than he looks. Don't you mean than? He sighs while closing his locker just when the bell rung for morning class. Don't you mean rang? Another day. He ran to class as fast as he could, so he won't run into the school bully, Bill Riley. Wow, another real person in this story. Well, at least he was clever to have the Republican be the bully in this case, but still. And, the word won't should not be in this sentence. He ran to class as fast as he could so he won't run into the school bully. I mean, first of all, it kind of clashes with the tense, so replace it. It should say so he wouldn't run into the school bully, or so he wouldn't. Oh, well, I already. Whatever. Bill was after him for some unknown reason, but it's safe to assume it was just because he was a bully. That entire sentence was completely pointless. And also, for the word it's, seeing it's an abbreviation for it is, there should be an apostrophe S. But Glenn's haste wasn't only to get away from Bill. It was so he could get to class before everyone else does. Because when he walked into class after most of the other students were there, everyone will start making pig noises. His classmates been doing since he was 12. Hamo Hamster, are you going to college for 3-year-olds or something? Because, you know, this grammar is not one that I've seen from someone in college. And I'm assuming that when you're in college, you've been taking courses that involve English. English mainly has stuff in there about grammar and spelling. And I'm reading this story like you wrote it back then when you wrote your other stories. And this story was written 2 years after your first story. And one more thing. Have the number 12 be the word 12. Glenn's eyes started to puff when the memories of endless teasing came flooding back like a storm. In his distress, he ran into another boy, knocking both of them down. Glenn closed his eyes when he heard many voices laugh. Oh no, what have I done? If that's supposed to be thought, it shouldn't be in quotations. It should be italicized if it's thoughts. And it shouldn't be in the middle of the damn paragraph. Glenn kept his eyes closed, hoping if it was a bully or gulp Bill he ran into, the beating would be swift, or will be swift. As he kept his eyes closed, Don't you mean his, as he kept his eyes closed? I mean, this is... Ugh. He heard the boy stand up and walk to him. Glenn trembled. Oh shit, I'm doomed. So I guess this kid has a tendency of talking out loud to himself. Yeesh, no wonder he's made fun of. Hey buddy, are you okay? That's not how you spell okay, you idiot. I'm not even gonna bother saying how to spell it, seeing everyone should know how to spell it by now. Glenn slowly opened his eyes and saw a light-skinned black boy in a white dress shirt and brown dress pants. He had a serious look on his face and a mole on the right side of his face, near his nose. He was bent over towards him with his hand out as if to help him up. Sure. Glenn grabbed his hand and let the young man help him up. He-Man? He-Man is in this story? Don't you mean the man? The man was taller than him. Don't you mean than him, and a little older. Okay, if this is supposed to be taking place when Glenn is like 16, Barrack wouldn't be a man. He would probably still be a kid, seeing, you know, Glenn references himself as a boy. So unless Barrack is supposed to be 18, but still, he's still a high school student, so why is he calling him man? He smiled at Glenn with a huge smile and started bushing his shirt. I've never heard of bushing a shirt before. I wonder what that process is. I think they mean to say brushing. Where is the rush? Ha ha, you actually woke me up. Glenn stared at the young man. Something deep in him started to make him feel warm. His face started to flush and his palms became sweaty for reasons beyond his understanding. The young man then picked up his books and started to run to class. Oops, sorry, I'm going to be late for class. Bye. Okay, seeing the word bye is part of its own sentence, the B in it should be capitalized. The man ran a little down the hall and turned, still running. "Oh yeah, my name is Barrack." Well, at least they spelled his name right this time. And ran into an open door down the hall, just when a teacher was about to close it so she can start class. Glenn stood looking at that direction for a while. He never felt this feeling before, and felt confused and a little scared. "My name is Glenn," he says under his voice. But then he snapped back to reality. Oh shit, class. He picked up his books and ran the other way down the hall. The halls was mostly empty, and he knew he missed his chance to beat his peers to class. He ran up the flight of stairs and down the hall. Ms. Hamo is... oh my god. Is Hamo supposed to be a reference to the damn author? Is this author actually a woman? You know what? I don't want to know, and I really don't want to care. His English teacher door was closed. Wait a minute, what? Ms. Hamo, his English teacher, door was closed. Shouldn't it say Ms. Hamo's with an apostrophe S? Because when you have to say Miss Hamo, his English teacher, door was closed, you're implying that she's a bloody door. That's what you're implying. He slowed his speed, knowing that it's too late. He stopped at the door and took a deep breath. Then he knocked gently and opened the door. Oink, 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 oink. Finally, the school day was over. Nice transition there, buddy. His transition was oink, 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 oink. Glenn looked at himself in his locker mirror again and saw his hair covered in spitballs. He sighed as he shook it out of his hair while teens walked behind him, laughing and pointing to his back for some reason. He put away his homework in his book bag and put on his coat and ran for the school bus. It was crowed, as usual, so it had a lot of crows in it, or don't you mean crowded? And he was greeted with another choir of oinks while he found a seat in the back and sat by himself, reminiscing about his craptastic day. Okay, reminiscing about his craptastic day should be part of the other sentence, not its own separate sentence, because if it's its own separate sentence, it's a fragment. By itself, it's a fragment, so it should be part of the other sentence. Change the period after himself into a comma and have reminiscing about his crappiest day be part of the sentence. Soon he saw a familiar shape board the bus off the corner of his eye. A familiar shape? Wouldn't it make more sense to say a familiar face? He looked up and saw Barrack. By then, all the seats were taken, and the only seat available was, of course, next to Glenn. Barrack saw the empty seat then at Glenn, giving him a signature smile while approaching him. Glenn's heart skipped a beat when he saw him coming. Why am I nervous, he thought as Barrack sat next to him. Hello again. How are you? I am good. Great, actually. Glenn said as he felt sweat building up on his palms and butterflies in his stomach. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Oh, I'm Beck. Glenn Beck. Barrack held out his hand. Barack Obama. Pleased to meet you. Glenn wiped his hand on his pants and shook his hand. Barrack smiles, then pulled out his PSP and started playing Dissidia. So, Barack Obama, when he was 18, had a PSP. Isn't Barack Obama in his 40s? He might even be a bit older than that. Well, let's say he's like mid-40s, early 50s. Back when he was a teenager, he did not have a PSP because PSPs did not exist back then. They did not exist back then. I know this author is trying to claim it's an alternate universe, but still, they did not exist back then. So I'm still going to point it out. He said it was an alternate universe. He never said it's supposed to take place in the present day. So, Hamo Hamster, PSPs did not exist back in the days when Barack Obama was a teenager. Glenn wait, what? Oh, sorry, my mistake. Glenn looked and somewhat loudly said, "Oh, I love that game." Barrack paused the game and looked up at him. "Really? I just started playing it. I am a Final Fantasy fan and I thought I should give it a try." "Oh, you made a good choice. It's a very fun game. I heard they were making a sequel to it," Glenn said, totally fanboying. "Haha, really now? This game just came out. They didn't give this game a chance to cool off yet." That was the icebreaker. Throughout the bus ride, Barrack and Glenn talked about video games, anime, and manga. Glenn never met anyone who knew so much about Naruto or Kingdom Hearts or Death Note or Halo or even Pokemon, his favorite show. Okay, at this point, I'm assuming that this is supposed to take place in present day, but Hamo Hamster should have been more specific about that instead of saying it was an alternate universe. He didn't say it was an alternate universe in the description bar either. Soon they were both talking about themselves. Glenn learned that Barrack and his family just moved into town and today was his 3rd day at his high school. He told him that his mother and father divorced and he was being raised by his mother and grandparents. Barrack, oh great, they spelled Barrack wrong again. Barrack told him how happy he was in his town but said he haven't met a nice person yet in his school. Okay. First of all, they spelled met wrong, and it should say he hasn't met a nice person yet in his school. And it shouldn't say his school, it should say this school. Glenn told him he haven't either, and they both laughed. Yeah, the same mistake, not that far away from the first one. This guy is very sloppy. But then the bus stopped. Glenn looked up and saw that it was his stop. Barrack got up to let Glenn leave. Barrack flashed him a smile. "Well, 'twas nice talking to you." "'Twas." I know that's a real word, but you don't see that in modern day speech, really. That's something like in the beginning of a storybook. "'Twas the night before Christmas." Oh my gosh. Glenn looked up at him and felt a huge blush come across his face. "Yeah, you too." And he turned and headed for the door. But then Barrack... Okay, why isn't the B in Barrack capitalized? It is a name after all, and you spelled it wrong again. It only has 1 R, not 2. Let's continue. But then Barrack ran up and grabbed his arm, sending shivers down Glenn's back. Barrack... Okay, now he's spelling it right again. Bent and whispered in his ear, "There is a sign on your back." Glenn spun his arms around and grabbed a piece of paper off his back. When he looked at it, it had the word faggot scrawled on it. Everyone but Glenn, Barrack, and the bus driver, who was getting kind of frustrated by the delay, snickered. Glenn blushed and hung his head down, embarrassed. Barrack turned and scowled at the bus. "How very mature of you." Okay, wait a minute. When did they have time to put this sign on his back? If you sit next to Barrack the entire ride, are you to assume that they just randomly slapped it on him as he was walking by? And if so, wouldn't he have noticed? Or did it just magically teleport onto his back? "Come on, kid, I can't wait all day. Get off." The bus driver finally lost his patience. Glenn quickly walked out and onto the sidewalk. The door closed and drove off, but before it did, Glenn heard Barrack call out to him, "See you tomorrow, okay?" And then the bus was off. Glenn stood, ignoring the laughter of his peers, and shouted back, "Okay, bye." Glenn returned home just in time to say goodbye to his parents who were going out on the town for their anniversary, something that Glenn almost forgot about. He walked in and made himself a sandwich while his dog, Spike, begged for scraps. Eating the sandwich over the sink, Glenn's mind raced. He thought about Barrack. Only Barrack. How nice he is, his smile, his looks, his bronze skin, and how they share the same interests. He blushed frusciously. Is that a word? Let's look it up on Google and find out. The only result I got was the actual quotation from the story. Wow. Hamo Hamster has officially made up his own word. I don't know what the word is supposed to mean. Frusously. Frusously. Can any of you guys think of what that could possibly mean? What word it's supposed to resemble? Because I can't really think what it's supposed to resemble. Furiously, maybe? That's the only thing I can think of. Furiously. Well, if it's supposed to mean furiously, Hamo Hamster, you spelled it completely wrong! This is how it's spelled. F-R-U-S-U-S-L-L-Y. And for those who know the word furiously, you know it's not spelled like that whatsoever. But I'm not even sure if this is supposed to be the word furiously or not. It could just be a made-up word. Let's continue, I'm sorry. He blushed, I'm assuming furiously, as he pondered to why he couldn't get him off his mind. Why do I feel this way? I never felt this way before for anyone in my life. I don't understand. But then Glenn was snapped back into reality when he felt something cold sniff his crotch. He looked down and saw Spike licking the front of his pants where, to his surprise, he was popping a tent. What is this story rated again? T. And what's this down here? He's popping a tent? Maybe I'm just being a bit too picky, but you know, if I was writing this story, I would not, if you're going to have something referencing to popping up a tent, aka an erection, it should be up in the M section. I've read other fanfics that are in the T section, and there's no references to popping tents or anything like that. Was I getting turned on by thinking about Barrack? He moved the dog's head away, but Spike immediately went back to sniffing and licking. Spike, stop. Bad dog. But he knew he secretly liked it. He knew Spike was there whenever he needed intimacy, and he knew Spike have done things to him that no normal family dog does to their owners. But he still didn't want this contact, and he opened his hand and smacked the dog in the face, making it give out a yelp. I said no, damn it. Get go. Spike lowered his head and ran out the kitchen. Glenn turned and covered his face with his hands. At this time, his erection went away. What's wrong with me? End of chapter 1. You mean this isn't the entire story? He is actually going to do a multi-chaptered story about a real person. Wow. Wow. I have officially lost it. My sanity has officially gone bye-bye. This story has finally done it. It has finally done it. It has finally made me lose it completely. Well, people, it was very nice knowing you. Being the FanFic Critic has been a very fun experience, but I'm afraid I have to go now. Oh, and you may think I'll be coming back with the Dragon Balls, but here's the thing. You can only be brought back to life once with the Dragon Balls. So, I will see you all later. No! You'll be fine. Sorry, mate. Okay, let's see what the fanfic is this time. The author's Hamo Hamster. What stories have they written? Oh. This is the Hamo Hamster that has been driving her crazy throughout the year. I'm not even going to bother reading the story. Okay, I know you all just saw me shoot the FanFic Critic with this thing. This is a phase pistol. It's actually from the Star Trek universe. Don't ask how I managed to get my hands on it. I just did, and, you know, I did shoot the FanFic Critic with it, but don't worry, it didn't kill her or anything, it just knocked her out. You see, I put it on stun. I've been keeping it with me lately, because I'm worried. With some of the fanfic she's been reading, the past couple weeks have been a little much for her, so it's a good thing I came down when I did, because it looked like she was about to cut herself open. And if my understanding is correct, you can only be brought back with the Dragon Balls once. Unless you have Namek Dragon Balls. But that would take forever to fly to Namek to get them to bring her back. I'm not even sure if Namek is even in this galaxy. Well, anyway, the FanFic Critic did not like today's fanfic. That's all I can really say. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you're all proud of yourselves for being the cause of almost... Oh, I should reword this. You should be proud of yourselves for almost causing her to commit suicide. Cheerio!